Hey, Grace Church, Michael Campbell here, pastor of Children's Ministries. As always, I wanted to take this Sunday's lesson and dive into it, not only from a parent's perspective, but how we apply them to our own lives and how do we apply them to our children and start good discussion that way. So in this Sunday's lesson, we hear about the Sermon on the Mount. Obviously, this is one of the biggest teaching moments in Scripture, and it's almost a shame that they're taking this and bringing it into one lesson, because this is 3 chapters of gold. We see that Jesus is not only talking about how do we treat other people, but also how do we personally take all of this and use that to respond in how we treat people. So let's break it down in context a little bit. First, we see that he goes to a mountain, and this could be just any hill normally, but what Jesus said on that hill made it become the mountain, Sermon on the Mount. It became widely known that this is exactly where Jesus was. So he was on a mountain and then he sat. Now it goes to show that if he was just walking or was just standing, it would be unofficial and it would be too informal. It was too casual. So what Jesus did was take a position of authority. He sat down. And that's precisely what they did even in the synagogues. When there would be an authoritative walking through the scripture, the person would sit down. When they would read the scripture, they would stand up, but then when they were explaining it, they would sit down as if they had authority. So Jesus not only sat down for authority, but he also did it for intimacy because he cared deeply about the multitudes. We see that throughout scripture. He loved people. So this was for the disciples, but it was also for everybody there. And the point of the Sermon on the Mount is not just for behavior modification. It was for heart transformation. And if I can kind of explain it like this, the Christian life is like somebody who plays music. If I were to ask you to play the Moonlight Sonata and you had all the right keys and all the right notes and you went and played and you did everything perfectly, I'd be listening and be like, I think that's right because you didn't mess up, but you were missing some sort of soul that is expected with the Moonlight Sonata. In the same way, the Christian life, if you are just doing all of the rules and not are deeply moved by it, there's going to be a disconnect. Because if you have the words of Scripture, but no soul, you're a liar. And if you have soul and no words to back it up, you're a hypocrite. So it's really important that we take the words that Jesus is saying, apply them to our lives, and be deeply moved by it and seeking to honor him, because the only person who can do all this perfectly was Christ himself. So it should lead us to Jesus because we know that we've fallen and we need his grace and mercy because he has died for us. So hopefully this can kind of understand all of the Sermon on the Mount, all of the book of Matthew is about Jesus Christ and him fulfilling all of that perfectly. So here are 3 questions that hopefully you can talk with your children. Again, go through this book, the 3 chapters slowly, and really pick apart some different areas that are really good talking points for the family. But the first question is it hard or easy to follow the rules, and why? Is it hard or easy to follow the rules? The next question is, who needs Jesus? Rule followers or rule breakers? It's almost a trick question. Who needs Jesus? Rule followers or rule breakers? Last question. What surprises you about Jesus' teaching? And I think that could be a good moment as you're walking through those 3 chapters and continuing on through Scripture, what we see Jesus was teaching. So what surprises you? He does flip the whole context of what our hearts naturally go for, which is why he is God and we are not. But hopefully this explains the lesson a little bit for this Sunday, but I am praying for you that you are not only watching this, but trying desperately to disciple your children intentionally. It means a lot to me, it means a lot to this church. So I pray that God would be moving in you and your family's life this weekend. But until next week, God bless and take care.